So, the next day, Aku sat in front of her hut, waiting patiently for her suitor. But next to her was a pot of water which she planned to pour on the man as soon as she sighted him. A long time ago, in Umudike, there lived an orphan called Aku, who lived alone in her hut. Since her parents passed away, she lived there quietly, never bothering anyone. But as she began to grow into a woman, her uncles, who never cared for her after her parents' death, decided it was time for her to get married because they were eager to share the bride price they would receive from her suitor. So without informing her, they began searching for a husband to marry their niece. And of course, it was not going to be a difficult task because Aku was a very beautiful woman. When the young men of the village sat to discuss women, Aku's beauty was the standard of measurement used to examine them. But Aku was ignorant of all that was going on. Whenever men tried to approach her, she would ignore them, and if they persisted, she would embarrass them. "I guess you're waiting for a king to marry you," some men would tease her. But Aku never cared about what they said. She barely had any friends, and she never invited anyone to her hut. The ladies in the village always thought of her as proud. They concluded that her beauty had gotten into her head. The only person Aku gave access to her life was Ifoma. Ifoma was her neighbor in the market where Aku sold foodstuff. But no matter how friendly they were, their conversations never left the borders of the market. Weeks passed, and Aku's uncles called her for a meeting. They wanted to discuss their choice of husband with her. "We have patiently waited for you to bring a husband, but you have failed to do so. Therefore, we have taken it upon ourselves to find one for you," one of them said. They told her that their chosen suitor would visit her at her hut the following day. So, the next day, Aku sat in front of her hut, waiting patiently for her suitor. But next to her was a pot of water which she planned to pour on the man as soon as she sighted him. When the man began approaching the hut, Aku grabbed the pot, ran towards him and flung the water on the man's body. Then she carried a big stick and began chasing him. When the news got to her uncles, they summoned her, and Aku faked remorse. She knelt and begged them, promising she would not do it again. "It's okay, my daughter," one of them said. "Although you have lost the first man, we have another one for you." So, the following week, Aku sat in front of her hut, waiting for her second suitor. But this time, she had a gun beside her. The gun belonged to her late father, who was a hunter. When she saw the man approaching her hut, she picked up her gun and made gunshot sounds in the air, and the man ran in fear for his life. When her uncles heard the news, they called and threatened to deal with her if she continued that way. But Aku was not moved. When they sent the third suitor, she waited for him a bit further away from her hut, and when she saw him, she pretended like she was going to hug him, but she beat his shoulder instead, and the man, who was in pain, left Aku behind, running for his dear life. Now news about Aku and her suitors had spread around the village, and Aku was happy about it because everyone would now understand that she was not interested in a suitor for a reason she did not care to share with anyone. But there was a certain man called Odinaka who was determined to marry Aku. Despite the stories in the village, he insisted she was his choice. To an extent, he did not believe what people said about her, because whenever he saw Aku, she was always calm, and she never displayed any aggressive behavior. So he decided to try and become her friend before seeking her hand in marriage. Perhaps those men were strangers to her, he thought to himself. So one day he went to Aku's shop to patronize her business, and how she sold the foodstuff to him further proved she was not a difficult person. So daily, he would go to buy one thing or the other from her shop. And one day, an opportunity to have a conversation with her presented itself. Aku was struggling with some bulk calculations due to the large amount of goods she had just received. Odinaka overheard her and gave her instant answers to her calculations. She looked at him in doubt and then continued with her calculations. But eventually, she arrived at the same answer. Brainy gidi oku, Aku said with a smile on her face, hailing Odinaka's smartness. Odinaka was very excited. It was the first interaction they had had aside from business. He quickly finished the remaining calculations and Aku offered him a drink, but he declined. Weeks passed and Odinaka kept coming to the shop, but now his conversations with Aku were more than business. Sometimes he even helped her to do some calculations. One evening, he came to buy something as usual, but Aku was already packed to go home. However, because of Odinaka, she unlocked her store and sold to him. But as she loaded some items on her wheelbarrow, she realized the tire was flat. "What will I do now?" Aku exclaimed. "Odinaka, Biko, can you help me carry some of my things?" she asked him. "To your house?" he asked her. But Aku angrily responded, "Of course not. I will tell you where to stop." They both began walking away from the market square. And as they walked, Odinaka thought it was the best time to tell Aku about his feelings. "I like you, Aku. Please, I want you to be my wife." Immediately Aku heard those words, she stopped walking and stared at him intensely. "Is that why you have been coming to my shop every day?" she asked him, in annoyance, and Odinaka slowly nodded. Immediately, she asked him to drop her things by the road. "Biko, don't help me again. You can go home," she said. Odinaka tried to plead with her, but Aku was not having it. However, he was not going to allow her to carry all those items herself. So, against her will, he started walking fast towards her house. When Aku realized what he was doing, she quickly ran after him shouting, "Don't go close to my hut, oh! If I catch you there, I will shoot you." But Odinaka did not plan to invade her privacy. He just wanted to drop it close enough for her to carry it to her house. After he dropped the items, he began walking away. But as he walked away, Aku smiled shyly. She definitely had feelings for him, but she instantly wiped that smile off her face. "Of course I can't marry him," she said to herself as she began carrying her items into the house. The next day, Odinaka came to see Aku at her shop, but she would not attend to him. She asked him to leave, but he quickly moved to Ifoma's shop. "I want to buy something from Ifoma," he said to her. Aku looked at him confused and said, "What could you possibly want to buy from Ifoma? She sells women beads." But Ifoma, who had long observed Odinaka liked Aku, quickly came to his rescue. "Biko, leave my customer. Don't chase him away." So every day, Odinaka would come and buy beads from Ifoma, and Aku would eagerly wait for him to come. And anytime he was late, she would be visibly upset. It was now obvious she liked Odinaka, and Ifoma would seize every opportunity to tease her. About 2 months later, Ifoma told Aku that a suitor had come to marry her and she would be leaving the village soon. Aku was very happy for her friend, but she was also sad because she knew she would be left all by herself, and it soon dawned on her that she would be that way for the rest of her life. So, she came up with a plan to have children, and it involved Odinaka. At least, if she could not get married, she could definitely have kids. The next day, she set out to look for him to accept his proposal. Odinaka, she said, if you still want to marry me, I am ready to accept your proposal. Odinaka smiled and nodded in approval. Akum, thank you for accepting my proposal. He asked her to wait while he ran to get something from his house. When he came back, he handed her the beads he had been buying from Ifoma. They were all for her. Aku blushed at his gesture, but their conversation was not over. She had some conditions. We will not live in the same house, and I will never sleep over at your house either. Odinaka was puzzled. What kind of arrangement was that? I will fulfill all my obligations as your wife, but my conditions remain unchanged. Aku trembled as she spoke because she knew she might lose him. Odinaka pressed to find out why she had such strict conditions, but she refused to answer. Well, I can't live that way, he said to her, but I assure you that whatever it is, you can tell me and we will solve it together. Aku burst into tears. Now, she knew she was going to be alone forever. Odinaka tried to console her, but she was inconsolable. Eventually, she left him and returned to her hut. 2 days passed, and Odinaka kept coming to the market to check on Aku, but she was nowhere to be found, and Ifoma did not know her whereabouts either. He was so worried that he decided to go close to her hut and shout her name. Akum, he shouted at the top of his voice. But even after he called her several times, Aku was not responding, but her windows were open. Odinaka became scared. He decided to move closer to her hut, even though he knew Aku might despise him. And as he walked, he kept shouting her name, hoping she would respond, so he would refrain from entering her house. But still, there was no response. However, he noticed a strong stench, which only became stronger as he moved closer to the hut. Odinaka pushed the door open and saw Aku lying sick on the bed. Please, leave my house, Aku said in tears, very faintly. Odinaka quickly ran and called a herbalist to attend to her. The smell would not allow the herbalist to stay too long in the house, but Odinaka was not fazed by it. While the herbalist waited outside, Odinaka would go in with the medicine and feed it to Aku. Long after the herbalist had gone, he stayed with Aku and urged her to go back to bed, but Aku refused to. But because of how tired she was, she eventually did. While Odinaka waited for her to wake up, he cooked her a meal, washed her clothes, and began cleaning the hut. But while he was cleaning around her bed, he noticed there was a huge patch of water where Aku lay down. He was shocked because it was not there before she slept. But upon closer examination, he realized Aku had bedwetted. Odinaka was very shocked. He sniffed her mattress and realized it smelt of stale urine. Aku was a bedwetter. It definitely explained the stench of urine in the house. When Aku woke up, she was ashamed that her secret had been discovered. Aku, please, don't be ashamed, Odinaka said to her. How can a grown woman be urinating on her bed when she goes to sleep, she responded. But Odinaka consoled her, urging her not to cry. Aku had an issue with her bladder, which led to her bedwetting over the years. It was a condition she had to live with her whole life, and that was why she refused to get married, because she did not believe that any man would accept her that way. But not Odinaka. He still insisted on marrying Aku. Odinaka, this happens to me every night, she told him. But he responded, and we will deal with it together every day. But the next day, Odinaka did not show up the following morning as promised, and Aku became scared that he had abandoned her. She walked into the village to look around for him, but she noticed a group of girls were looking at her strangely. So she thought Odinaka had spread her secret, and in anger she shouted and said, "And so what? It's not my fault I urinate on the bed. You all can judge me for all I care." "Aku!" Odinaka screamed. He was just walking towards her house. Although he was meant to arrive early in the morning, he decided to meet with some hut builders who would help him build a better house with proper ventilation where he and Aku would live as a couple. When Aku realized she had spilled her secrets to a group of girls who were talking about something completely different, she ran back to her house and Odinaka followed her. "The villagers will all know now," she cried, but he consoled her and said, "Whatever comes, Aku, we will deal with it together." Aku looked him in the eyes and she knew he was not a liar. She blamed herself for not believing him when he said he would come back for her. And she felt even worse when she realized what he had been doing all morning. Odinaka and Aku eventually got married and lived happily. He took care of his wife, helping her wherever necessary to reduce how frequently she bedwetted, and they worked as a team to improve the overall hygiene of their home, making it presentable enough for guests to visit comfortably. And despite what the villagers had to say, it did not matter to them because they were the happiest couple in the village. Aku even went on to make more friends who loved her despite her condition. Today, I will be speaking to you about true friendship, the type of friendship everyone should pray to experience in their lifetime. Sometimes we go through situations that the world will judge us for, but one of the best assets to have to survive tough times is solid friendships. The Bible says in Proverbs 18 verse 24 that there are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. Here you can see that the Bible even rates this friend higher than a family member. It's just trying to state the high extent of loyalty or reliability you can expect from this friend. I pray we all experience this type of friendship in our lifetime, in Jesus' name. If you are interested in the ebook for this story, please click on the link in the description and I will send it out to you in less than 24 hours. Also, shout out to this person, GMAFWOLO. This comment was posted on the last story and it was the inspiration for the story today. Although the writer is speaking about the perfect love of God, I had to relate it to the love we human beings can show each other, which should actually replicate the love of God. I appreciate all your comments and support you show this channel. So if you enjoyed today's story, please like, comment, and share with your loved ones. Till next time, bye.